You are lying on your mat, the warm breeze of dusk rustling through the spinifex grasses, and the sky above you fades from ochre to deep purple. In this quiet, it is easy to forget the noise of your daily life. Instead, we are going to walk slowly, gently, into the rhythms of a land where for tens of thousands of years, Indigenous Australians moved across a vast continent, reading every ripple of sand, every bird's call, and every bend in a river to find water, food, and the sacred places of their ancestors. They called them songlines. You can imagine these as invisible highways that crossed deserts, forests, and river systems, linking the lands of different groups, while also mapping the locations of water holes, edible plants, animal tracks, and safe places to camp. These routes were sung, not written, each verse holding the memory of a landmark, the turn of a creek, or the hidden spring beneath a cluster of rocks. At dawn, a traveler might rise and listen to the call of a crested bellbird or the distant ping of a honeyeater, noting the direction they came from, the time of year, and the condition of the land. If the bird was nesting, water was likely nearby, since many desert birds did not stray far from a water source during nesting periods. This gentle observation was not rushed. It was part of life's rhythm, allowing the traveler to conserve energy in the harsh heat while collecting layers of information invisible to untrained eyes. Indigenous Australians used the cracks in mud as maps. If you and I were to walk beside a drying clay pan, we might see only fractured patterns underfoot. But to them, the shape and freshness of cracks could indicate whether water was still beneath the surface, or if the ground would yield a small soak when dug with a coulomin, a curved wooden carrying vessel. They could smell the air at dawn, and a faint dampness might reveal underground moisture from a hidden spring, even if no water was visible. Spinifex grass itself was a language. When the seed heads turned color and the winds blew them a certain way, it signaled the time for hunting certain animals that relied on those seeds for food. Kangaroos, for instance, might follow the green shoots after a rare desert rain, and indigenous hunters would track these patterns using a patient walk, leaving minimal signs of their passing. Each step was careful, each footprint telling a quiet story for those who could read them. In the cool shade of a rock outcrop, an elder might show the younger members of the group how to listen for the call of a zebra finch, which often led to a waterhole. The finches would gather in flocks, their sharp calls a signpost in the silence. If you learned to slow down, to listen deeply, and to connect each sound and breeze with the land, you would begin to understand that in this vast country, no one was truly lost if they remembered the teachings and the songs. In coastal regions, women would walk the mangroves at low tide, using digging sticks to unearth shellfish, yams, and edible roots. They would watch the patterns of tides, the flight of seabirds, and the bloom of specific coastal flowers to know when shellfish were at their fattest. Food gathering was not a frantic search, but a steady, respectful harvest that considered the needs of the land and ensured its renewal for the next season. As we lie back and let these details settle like drifting dust, imagine the taste of clean water found in the hollow of a tree root or in a sandstone pocket after rain. Water in the desert was not simply a commodity. It was woven into ceremony, trade, and family life. Springs were protected places, approached with respect, and songs were often sung before drinking to acknowledge the spirit of the water and the ancestors who first discovered it. In the highlands, the eucalyptus forests would tell stories too. The flowering of specific gums might signal the presence of nectar-loving birds, which in turn indicated the blooming of certain plants. These plants might carry edible blossoms or seeds. Even the ants were teachers. Small honeypot ants would collect nectar and store it in their swollen bodies. And indigenous children learned to find these ants under certain conditions, savoring their sweet liquid when water was scarce. You can almost hear the hush of these ancient lands, the crackling of dry leaves underfoot, the chirp of a hidden bird, the scratch of a lizard darting between rocks, and the soft chanting of a song as travelers moved from one water source to another. In the cool of evening, families would sit around small fires, the stars above mapping the sky in constellations as songlines did on the ground. Stories of the dreaming would weave together lessons of how the land was shaped, where the best water holes lay, and which animals should be hunted or avoided. Every stone, tree, and breeze carried a meaning, a subtle indicator in a language deeper than words. In this landscape, survival was not about constant fear, but about deep attention and profound respect for the environment, which in turn provided sustenance and safety for those who moved in harmony with its patterns. And so, as you drift gently into this world, you might ask yourself, what did it feel like to trust the land so completely that the wind, the birds, and the cracks in the earth became your guide, your compass, and your map? As the dawn light deepens into morning, you might imagine yourself walking quietly across red earth, following your elders toward a patch of bush where the soft rustle of leaves hints at life. For Indigenous Australians, gathering food was more than survival. It was a relationship with the land, built on respect, gratitude, and careful observation. You would learn to look for bush tucker, the edible gifts of the land, by watching signs in the environment. When certain wattle trees blossomed with pale yellow flowers, it signaled the right time to search for specific grubs living in the roots, considered a rich source of protein. The presence of bright red quandong fruits, glowing softly in the dusty green leaves, told of a season's shift, offering sweet and tart nourishment while leaving the seeds behind to grow again. The elders would walk slowly, speaking softly or singing low songs to the land, asking permission before taking what was needed. This quiet rhythm allowed them to hear the movement of a small lizard under the dry leaves, or the call of a bird that might lead them toward ripening fruit. The world was alive with messages for those who walked gently enough to hear them. Imagine bending down beside a patch of earth, seeing the tiny tracks of honey ants leading you to their hidden chambers. The elders would teach you how to find these without harming the nest, gently collecting a few honeypot ants whose bodies swelled with sweet nectar, like small droplets of sunlight in your hand. It was a moment of gratitude, not greed, with every action guided by the understanding that taking too much could harm the delicate balance of the bush. In another moment, you might watch as a woman uses a kulamon, a curved wooden vessel, to dig for yams, feeling the earth give way beneath her careful digging stick. She would check each yam to see if it was ready, leaving the smaller ones in the soil to grow for the next season, ensuring that the supply would continue for her children and their children. The soft, warm scent of freshly dug earth, mixed with the gentle rustle of the wind, would be your quiet companion. By a river's edge, families would gather to fish using woven nets or spears, watching the ripples that signaled the presence of fish beneath the surface. They knew which fish appear in which seasons, which ones were best eaten immediately, and which could be dried in the warm sun for the coming weeks. Children learned by watching, mimicking the patient stance of their elders, learning to feel the rhythm of the water as they waited for the right moment to strike. Even in the harshness of drought, the land held its secrets for those who paid attention. A cluster of trees with thicker leaves might hide a water soak at its roots, or a patch of greener grass might indicate underground moisture. By reading the subtle differences in color and texture, the elders could find water that was invisible to an untrained eye. And as the day would draw to a close, families would sit under the slow glow of the setting sun, sharing what they had gathered while stories were told. Stories of how the crow brought fire, how the kangaroo got its long tail, or how the stars were once young children playing in the sky. These stories held teachings about the land, the animals, and the seasons, passing knowledge through gentle words so it would not be forgotten. Food gathering was not a hurried task, but a practice in patience, gratitude, and deep listening. It was about taking only what was needed, using everything fully, and leaving the land ready to renew itself. It was about knowing that each meal was a gift from the earth, and that by caring for the land would continue to care for you. As you rest now, let these quiet moments of soft footfalls on warm earth and the gentle songs of the bush drift through your mind, reminding you that there is wisdom in moving slowly, in paying attention to the small signs, and in living with respect for the world around you. As the warm hush of evening settles over the land, let us wander into the quiet rhythms that shaped the way Indigenous Australians understood the seasons, the spirits within the land, and the stories of the dreaming that guided every step and every gathering of food and water. For Indigenous Australians, time was measured not by a calendar of numbered days, but by observing the world itself. When certain flowers bloomed, when a specific bird returned, or when the wind shifted in its scent, it signaled the turning of seasons. These seasonal calendars, unique to each region, told people when to move to new camps, when certain animals were ready to hunt, and when the land needed to rest. In the top end of Australia, for example, people recognize 6 distinct seasons rather than 4, marked by the blooming of specific trees, the arrival of lightning storms, or the migration of water birds. Each of these signs was not simply a marker of weather, but a conversation with the land, reminding the people of when to fish, when to collect eggs, when to burn the grass to encourage new growth, and when to let certain places rest. These seasonal movements were not just practical, but deeply spiritual, woven into the dreaming stories that explained how the world came to be. The dreaming, or the dream time, is the spiritual framework that holds the... As you close your eyes and listen, imagine sitting under the vast, parchment-colored sky by a small fire, the smoke drifting slowly upward as an elder tells a dreaming story. Perhaps it is the story of the rainbow serpent who carved the rivers and valleys into the land, creating water holes where people could drink. Or the story of the emu in the sky, whose shape in the Milky Way signals when it is time to collect emu eggs, a reminder to take only what is needed. You would learn that the songs and stories were not separate from daily life. They were maps, guiding people across the land while teaching them the proper ways to interact with it. A story about a kangaroo spirit might teach the young how to track and hunt respectfully, ensuring that the animals would continue to thrive for future generations. A story about a sacred waterhole would teach why it must be approached with care, with offerings and words of gratitude before taking water. When moving through the land, people would sing these songs, retracing the steps of ancestral beings who walked the land before them. These songlines were like invisible threads, connecting places across vast distances, allowing travelers to find water, food, and shelter by following the verses and melodies passed down through countless generations. At night, the stars themselves became teachers. The Southern Cross, the emu in the sky, and other constellations guided people as they moved under the moonlight, reminding them of stories and seasons, offering direction across the open landscapes. The soft glow of starlight, reflected in waterholes and rivers, creating a quiet bond between the sky above and the earth below. And so as the embers of our small fire glow softly in the hush of the night, we leave the gentle footsteps of those who came before us, who moved patiently across the land, listening to the wind, reading the tracks in the sand, and offering quiet gratitude for each drop of water and each meal gifted by the earth. Tonight, let yourself breathe in the calm of this ancient rhythm, knowing that the world around you holds quiet signs of care and guidance, just as it did for those who learned to walk with patience and respect. Each soft breeze, each rustle in the trees, each distant call of a bird is part of a conversation far older than memory, reminding you that even in the stillness, you are part of a larger, gentle story. As your eyes grow heavier, imagine the warm earth beneath you, the soft glow of the stars above, and the comforting hush of the land at rest. Let your thoughts drift like smoke rising into the night, dissolving gently into the calm. You are safe. You are held by the quiet of the world. There is nothing you need to do now but rest, breathing slowly, letting your body grow warm and heavy as you drift towards sleep. If you are still awake, you are welcome to let this story continue to play, allowing the soft sounds and slow words to keep you company as you rest, until sleep arrives like the dawn across the red earth. Thank you for joining this quiet journey tonight. May you rest deeply, and may you wake refreshed, carrying a piece of this gentle rhythm with you into tomorrow.